Words over in the chat.
We got words over in the chat.
If we care to look.
Okay. So, Gary, I think that means we'll be singing when you go live. Is that okay?
Yep, and we are live now.
Okay, everybody mute themselves. But please sing, because it gets us breathing together.
Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind just stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind just stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind now stayed on justice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Well, I'm sitting and singing with my mind stayed on freedom. I'm sitting and singing with my mind just stayed on freedom. I'm sitting and singing with my mind just stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Mike, I just unmuted you so you can tell us a little bit about Thomas, and then he can say hello to everyone.
Thank you. Thomas Dorzik has been the president of Magnum Photos since the early 1990s. Magnum Photos was founded in 1947 and is one of the most prestigious photo agencies in the world, with offices in New York, Paris, and London. Thomas says he has photographed major conflicts and covered international news for the world's leading magazines, and has published several books. He has said since the escalation of COVID-19, the usual means of documenting world events is no longer available, and he has adapted ways to gain access to events that have replaced the pre-crisis reality, and has been forced to cover online events like ours via video conference in a virtual space. So we are honored that Thomas has found Tuesdays with Tillis. We don't know how, but hopefully he'll tell us. Please tell us a little about yourself, Thomas, and what your current project is. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Hi, thanks a lot for having me. And I'm a normal documentary photographer in the normal world, and I've been doing this for the last 25 years, maybe 30 years. And as Michael just said, is like, yes, with the beginning of the crisis, I guess I had two choices. One was either I'm going to stay outside, I'm going to try to document the limited world, especially in France, lockdown was very strict. Or what I thought I should actually look at, do sort of the total opposite of what I usually do, and look into what is happening, what is developing in online now, what initiatives there are, what events. But there's a lot of musical things, there's a lot of yoga, there's a lot of parties as well, but like also more serious things. And also I'm playing along on two lines. One is that I'm using Zoom and Skype, sometimes FaceTime, to enter situations where it would be irresponsible to go as a photographer, because right now the difference is in a conflict. It used to be I was the one who was in danger, but now I'm actually bringing danger to older people, for example. So I can't go into a house of the elderly. So what I've done is I've called in, and they basically put a laptop in the middle of the dining room, and they let the laptop run, and I'm trying to take remotely meaningful pictures. I mean, it's not best photography in the world. And the other big part is, of course, I'm trying to get into existing social events or political, like in your case. I think this is like the second week that I'm actually doing really political activist things online. I didn't find it before, to be honest. I found organized political things. There was like summits and like statesmen's meetings, this kind of things. But on a citizen level, I hadn't found Zoom conferences where this happened. And suddenly, about 2 weeks ago, it suddenly started coming up. And so you were asking how I found it, or how I found you guys. I think I Google. Well, I sort of do. I mix between searching on Twitter, searching on Facebook, searching on Instagram. I think it was Twitter. I found something. It's like "stay at home protest" hashtag, and then.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, so that's it.
Well, we welcome you. We're a community of nonviolent resistance, and we have been meeting together for 171 weeks. Usually it's been on the street, in the cold, in the hot, in the rain. Nancy Jacobs and I innocently answered an email from, I think it was Move On, that said, would you like to have a rally to oppose the cabinet nominees in front of your senator's office? And we looked and saw that the only senator's office to have a protest in front of was Senator Tillis' office in Raleigh, and that was 171 weeks ago. And we continue with our resistance to his incredible, deadly, increasingly policies, and our determination to vote him out in November, to vote McConnell out, and certainly to vote Trump out. So that's what we do, and we have been, I don't think, at all weakened by the fact that we can't meet in person. Things have just changed for us a little bit, and in some ways become a little bit more broad, as I hope you'll hear. So I welcome you. I welcome everyone else who's here for the first time. And I want to encourage everyone who doesn't get our weekly newsletter to please put your email address in the chat so that you can do that. You can unsubscribe at any time. And I'm thrilled that our speaker today is from Democracy NC, such an important, crucial organization. And I'm so grateful to Scarlett for inviting him, and she's going to introduce him.
Good morning, everybody. Saylor Jones is the campaign director of Democracy NC, a nonpartisan organization that works to increase voter participation. And Democracy NC wants to achieve a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Saylor is a UNC and North Carolina Central University Law School graduate. And I was reading his bio, and he stated that he is a bitter Southerner committed to fight for civil liberties and social justice across the region. That's my kind of guy. So I'm turning it over now to my new friend, Saylor.
Thank you, Scarlett. That was a very kind opening. And I'm not bitter to be a Southerner, but I certainly am bitter to have to fight for voting rights in this environment. It is a tough road to hoe. And as Scarlett said, we are a nonpartisan organization, although we have known and loved Tuesdays with Tillis for a long time, at the very least, because y'all will always march over to the General Assembly to help us fight for voting rights. So we really, really appreciate you. As you can see, I am sheltering at home with the rest of you, so thank you for having me. I'm so pleased everybody is safe and sound. And Scarlett, I'm sure you invited me on to talk a little bit about what our elections are going to look like this fall. And I know everybody is waiting with bated breath to see how and when and where we are going to vote. And I have a little bit of intelligence that I would like to share in that regard as we wait for the General Assembly to return for its not so short session. So if you will give me 10 minutes of your time, I'm going to run through the 7 most important factors to really think about. And again, we are a nonpartisan organization. We are building a political system that works for all people and let the chips fall where they may. But I will say there's a lot to be angry at all of the parties about in this political moment. And we'll talk a little bit about that from here. But I wanted to say, at the very least, what we know is you will be voting this fall, and everyone in North Carolina will vote on General Election Day, November 3rd. Early voting is still slated to begin at this moment on October 15th. North Carolina obviously has 17 great days of early voting before Election Day. And right now that has been defended and remains. But in addition, there will be 2 primary runoff elections that have been delayed until June 23rd, one in Congressional District 11, which is the larger one, and a smaller runoff, an election redo in Columbus County. Both of those are Republican primaries, but they are relevant because any election that happens in June will be definitely impacted by COVID-19 and likely our elections in the fall. So I want to talk to you about kind of the 7 factors we see as impacting your elections in the moments I have left. One, first and foremost, is our State Board of Elections. As you well know, in North Carolina, the State Board, not the Secretary of State, runs our elections, or at least administers them. And recently, Karen Brinson Bell, who is the Governor Cooper appointee, had posed amending the emergency election rules to include disease in them. Right now, the biggest emergencies North Carolinians face in administering our elections are obviously hurricanes and the occasional war. And so we don't have disease, much less pandemic, written into those emergency rules. She was trying to do so, but as a testament to the politicalization of our times, that has even become a flashpoint in North Carolina politics, the fact that she would like to add disease temporarily into her emergency powers so she can deal with what's actually happening on the ground in North Carolina. And so as of today, the State Board of Elections has yet to amend that rule after there was a kind of sweeping protest of this potential change. Obviously, Democracy NC supports giving the person who runs our elections the power to run them, even during COVID-19. And we have tried our best to explain to the public that this is not a sweeping change. This does not give Karen Brinson Bell nor the State Board of Elections widespread power to change our elections. That is up to the General Assembly, and we'll talk about them in just one moment. But we did provide recommendations to them for how they should be administering the elections, and that includes giving county boards flexibility in areas like poll worker recruitment. As many of you may know, the average age of poll workers in North Carolina is 70 years old. As a result of that, they are most at risk of COVID-19, and they may be unlikely to serve in their capacity that they always have. And if we can't have poll workers, we can't have good in-person voting safe and secure. So we need to reduce the restrictions on them and get new poll workers in the mix. We need to make it easier to securely request and cast votes by mail. This is a no-brainer. In 2016, 4% of North Carolinians used absentee voting. The State Board of Elections is predicting 10 times that amount may try this year. And so if 40% of North Carolinians are going to try to vote by mail amid the COVID-19 crisis, we need to help them do so, not make it harder. We'd also like to the North Carolina General Assembly, the State Board of Elections, to advocate for modest matching funds to access vital federal election dollars that are coming down the pike to help with running elections amid COVID-19. So the second biggest factor, other than the State Board of Elections, is our Congress, which is relevant to this group. And we'll be putting together an action that we'd love everyone to participate in online to ask Senator Tillis and Senator Burr to take action on a variety of broad election proposals, one of which is up from Amy Klobuchar right now, to provide even more resources to help us with voting. Klobuchar's bill is mostly focused on expanding voting by mail and allowing Americans to vote from home. But there are other election funds that I wanted to tell you about. And I'm going to share my screen really quickly and see if you can see this. No, I'm not. I can't share it. Well, anyway, what I was going to show you is the fact that we have $22 million coming to us through federal election funds if the North Carolina General Assembly will only match a small portion of that amount. And
Sailor, you
yeah.
do not have to hurry. These are really important things. And also, I think now we can share the screen.
Okay, let's see if we can do it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, here we go. So if everyone can see this, y'all can give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Great. Okay. I'm going to put it on presenters view. I won't be able to see you, but I'll run through these really quickly and then we can take some questions. So we are due about $22 million from the CARES Act and from an earlier election security bill. But to get that money, the North Carolina General Assembly has to match 20% of that figure. Here it's around $4.4 million. And the State Board of Elections has requested that the North Carolina General Assembly do this. So the Senate has released a COVID response bill with an estimated $1.2 billion in spending to address a wide array of needs, not just elections. And so 4.4 million of that would be about 0.36% of that total. So we really need for them to put up that small amount so we can get the full 22 million. Early voting obviously begins in less than 6 months. Absentee voting, as y'all said, begins in less than 5 months. And Republican voters, at least, will be voting in the 11th Congressional District in a matter of weeks. And so now is the time for the General Assembly to take action. So the key to that vital federal funding is the third of 7 factors I want to talk about, the North Carolina General Assembly. Since early April, we've been working to encourage the General Assembly through targeted online actions while people are sheltering at home to really provide a wide array of relief for our elections. And these are some of the things we are asking for, not simply for them to match the federal funds to get that money, that $22 million that our State Board of Elections and counties so desperately need, but also expand access to absentee voting. As you may recall, in 2019, there was a bill that restored the popular last Saturday of early voting. It also worked to restrict absentee voting in a coincidental, ironic twist. We have just made it harder to vote by mail in North Carolina. So we'd like them to expand access to pre-2019 methods, which would include things like being able to request a ballot via email, online, fax, and phone. And we desperately know we need to increase poll staffing. As I said before, we can't have good, safe, secure in-person voting, and we can't get rid of in-person voting in North Carolina. It's just not an option. We don't use absentee voting on a mass scale. We need good in-person options, and the key to that is to increase poll workers. The best way to do that is to allow poll workers outside of the precinct to work in that precinct, and we're working on recommending that to the General Assembly as well. We may need more early voting options, not less. The Klobuchar bill that I referenced before would put every state at 20 days of early voting. The idea behind that is to reduce lines, but we may also need bigger places to vote, called in other states vote centers, that would allow for the machines and physical distancing that we'll need to keep people safe. Obviously, those matching funds can be used to create healthy in-person voting, everything from sanitary polling places to PPE for poll workers. And there are election day contingencies that we can think about. Might this be the year that we provide same-day registration on election day? Might this be the year that election day is a holiday to free up some of those large polling places, potential polling places, PPPs, which are like our schools and our libraries? This might be the year to try those creative things. So what might a election relief bill coming out of the General Assembly look like? And these are the things we've done to ask for it. We provided those recommendations I just told you to the State Board of Elections, the governor, and the legislature. We've been in talks with lawmakers about what a bill could look like. And we've been meeting with a lot of our partners to find out the best recommendations, since there's no one silver bullet for this. So we were on a call just last week. Scarlett knows this. She heard about it earlier in the week. We were on a call with a bunch of advocates and some of our state and federal lawmakers. And that virtual town hall, in that virtual town hall, Senator Jay Chaudhary, who is a Democrat in North Carolina General Assembly, had kind of laid out a picture of what a Senate proposal for election relief could look like. And these are some of the things that it would do: expand absentee voting access by email, phone, fax, and even a secure online portal that's centralized on the State Board of Elections website, so it's easy to find. If you've ever been to a county board of elections website, you know it. Good information is not always easy to find, so we would love to have it centralized. It would also reduce the witness requirement from 2 to 1. Obviously, if we are sheltering at home, you may not have access to 2 people to sign your absentee ballot, so this would make that a little bit easier. It would also take out the poll tax element of absentee voting, which is providing prepaid postage. The Senate bill would also do things like protect in-person voting, helping counties recruit additional poll workers, allowing them from out of precinct, as I said before, and providing sanitary supplies and protective equipment to maintain healthy polling sites. So that's what we could see from the Senate side. What we might see from the House side comes from a COVID-19 committee that has been led by David Lewis and heavily informed by Pricey Harrison and other Democrats. This is the Continuity in State Government Working Group that you may have heard of from its meetings earlier in April. They are in talks to do things like relax poll worker recruitment requirements, expand absentee ballot request access in the ways that I said, reduce absentee witness requirements, and provide those matching funds from federal dollars. These are all things that have come up during the course of those meetings. This is not intelligence. This is simply what they have discussed across party lines as potentially doing in a House bill that was promised in the COVID relief funding that passed on Saturday, but explicitly not there because it is so partisan and polarizing to both chambers of the General Assembly as anything relating to elections. So there's no definitive word yet on when lawmakers will reconvene to take up this promised legislation, but sooner the better. Obviously, voting starts in a few weeks, and all of these relief proposals would be essential to helping folks vote in the second runoff as well as in the fall. I really do say that the fourth rail in this is the governor. He could enact or demand more from whatever legislation passes, obviously, by signing it or vetoing it. He could also use his limited emergency powers to act in other ways. As you probably know, in New York, the governor has used his emergency powers to mandate that all voters receive absentee ballots. But given our executive branch has probably less power than New York's does, and the fact that the governor and all of the General Assembly is on the ballot this fall, any election changes, whether they're emergency orders from the governor's office or emergency legislation from lawmakers, will undoubtedly be highly politicized and could be supported or opposed along party lines. That's where Democracy NC comes in to kind of provide a little bit of nonpartisan air in the room. We are advocating for all voters and want to make it perfectly clear to both sides of the political aisle that if voters don't have good access to voting from home and in person, Republicans and Democrats and the 3 other parties we have in the state will all suffer as a result. The fifth rail in this, and I want to touch on this briefly because these are things you may not know or remember. Obviously, the courts are not hearing cases in the typical way. In some cases, they are not hearing cases at all. Don't try to get a divorce in North Carolina during the first half of the year. It is tough. But as a reminder, there are court cases to hear the validity of voter ID. There is a challenge to 2019 changes to absentee voting. There is a challenge to the uniform weekday hours requirement in early voting, a change in 2018 that is really sucking all of the resources out at the county level and making it very difficult, especially in this environment, to provide good early voting options when people actually use it. So that is being challenged. And as recently as yesterday, another lawsuit was filed on behalf of a group of voters seeking to loosen rules around absentee mail-in ballots. This is amid predictions that the coronavirus pandemic will make voting by mail a widespread practice. So this lawsuit wants North Carolina to provide prepaid postage, change the requirement from 2 witnesses to 1 to sign a ballot, extend the deadline of receipt of ballots until 9 days after Election Day. We saw in this past election, a lot of ballots did not count because they didn't get there in time, not from the fault of the voter, and give voters a chance to fix signature discrepancies before election officials reject those ballots. Another reason a lot of absentee ballots are rejected in big years and small. So it's important to note North Carolina's own State Board of Elections had endorsed at least the first 2 provisions in a proposed list of election changes released in March. So this lawsuit isn't manifesting out of whole cloth. It is very important and addresses even some of the things the State Board of Elections wants. The 6th critical factor of 7, and we'll be done, is local boards of elections. And as you well know, early voting doesn't happen out of whole cloth. It happens through a long early voting advocacy period where people go to the County Board of Elections and fight for what they want. It is obviously harder to do in this moment. But the 6th critical factor is local board of elections because they are the vital entity that does everything like propose elections budgets, recruit poll workers. They identify and provide the safe, accessible, and secure polling places that you know and love. They count absentee ballots, and they lobby the county commission for funding to do all of this. County commissions that are already telling many of our counties that they should expect cuts because of the public health crisis and having to divert funds to other areas. So we're hearing from many county boards of elections that they are facing budget cuts this year. And so we are actively working to lobby for the counties at the General Assembly and also get advocates like you to lobby on the county level to defend the early voting options that you love. So the 7th and final factor in all of this is your ability and willingness to take action in support of better voting access in 2020. So, like I said, we've been working for weeks to find out when BOE meetings are happening on the county level. Are they telephonic or virtual? Are they being offered? Can the public participate? This is absolutely vital to defending, especially early voting sites for marginalized communities, for young people in campus voting. These will be the first things on the chopping block should counties not receive matching funds and sufficient funds from their county commissions for a presidential election. We're trying to find out how many county elections budgets will be cut. So if you have this intelligence, please email me because that's very important to lobbying to the General Assembly about how we need funds sooner than later. And we're asking counties how we can be helpful in helping them. In every election cycle, Democracy NC helps them try to recruit poll workers. We promote on social media those opportunities now more than ever. It will be more important for advocates to look in their trusted networks to get good poll workers too. I also want to point out one very important thing. Nearly 600,000 people were removed from the voting rolls in 2019, many of whom do not know it. And so the one thing we do know is that while people are sheltering at home right now, they can register to vote. Yes, we have online voter registration for the first time in the state, brought about by the COVID-19 crisis, but very necessary in this year and then the years to come. It is available from the NCDMV website. You need not do another transaction in order to take advantage of this. But right now, you do need a DMV ID, like a license, in order to participate. We are promoting this far and wide. This is our short link to make it easy to get to the DMV website where you need to be. We have released a podcast on this. We are releasing a short length and long length video. We are producing a one-pager. Now more than ever, people need to be ready to vote, many of whom do not know they are not. And it doesn't hurt you to go and register again. So we are pushing this out far and wide, asking people to check to see if they are active and asking people to go here and register online if they are not. The last thing I want to say about this is we're also pushing the census. The deadline for census has changed. As of last week, I think about half of North Carolinians have filled out their census forms. A lot have not in the areas of the state where there is the biggest digital divide. And so we know a lot of North Carolinians are using the online form to fill out their census. If you go to demnc.co/census, you can find out how to go online, fill out your census form by phone, and fill out your form. All of this is available at demnc.co/takeaction. And in fact, right now, you can email Moore and Berger, the North Carolina General Assembly's leadership. You can email your lawmakers, and you can email the committee that I talked about before on the House side to demand that they take up election relief sooner than later. At the very least, matching the federal election funds so we can start getting that money to the counties where they need it most. This will be so important moving forward. And so if you have questions, I want to take your questions right now. Maybe you can still see the screen. It's time for Q&A, but I don't know how to unshare my screen so we can go back to the other. But if someone is a host, you can share your screen and we can get that back up. I also wanted to share our information. We have a voter website, ncvoter.org. Our hotline is active now. We are actively helping voters request absentee ballots right now. Obviously, they are available for June and for November. The request form is. The ballots will be out later this year. And you can connect with us through our texting program, our social media channels. We live tweet almost every COVID-19 hearing, so you can find out the latest there. And we have a podcast, mostly meant for young people, but the more mature of us, the seasoned of us, love it too, especially while we're sheltering at home. We have 2 pods out now that are relevant. One is voting during a pandemic, and the other is about online voter registration. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask away.
Celia, I think there's an option at the very top for you to unshare.
Let's see. Yes, there we are.
Great.
Thank you. Karen, you are muted right now. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. That was so great. And there's already a question in the chat. I'm going to encourage people to unmute themselves with questions. Elena, go ahead.
Taylor, that was great. I'm a PowerPoint lover, so for me, that was wonderful. Will any of this information be in Spanish?
So that is an excellent question. Even right now, we are translating our census materials with the new updated deadlines into Spanish. And we are turning what was a wallet card into a postcard so we can actually get it to people without endangering the lives of our advocates and the people who are receiving these print pieces of materials. Our OVR one-pager and our absentee voting one-pager, which will obviously be updated when and if the legislature does act to expand voting access by mail. These will be translated into Spanish as well. And the reason why we're doing these print resources and translating them into Spanish is we have not heard from the State Board of Elections about what kinds of print resources they will be providing to voters. I've asked again and again, are you going to send out something about online voter registration while people are trapped at home? Are you waiting to send out absentee materials to see what the legislature does? Haven't heard yet on what types of print materials that they are providing. So in their stead, we are doing that. And there's two things I want to say about Spanish. We've been doing early voting advocacy, and we have what is called the Buncombe County model. And that's simply because Buncombe County is one of the first counties to be advocating for good early voting. In fact, their Buncombe County Board of Elections met last week to start talking about what their budget could look like. Will they be facing cuts? What will it look like? And so we have used Buncombe County, and now Buncombe's a large county, but we used it as a model so we can start helping people advocate virtually for good early voting options and to defend the sites and opportunities that they want to have. One of those asks has been that ballots be provided in English and Spanish. And so we don't know yet. Counties' budgets are obviously going to be cut in some cases. We acknowledge that people are dealing with the public health crisis, and voting may be the last things on the county commission's mind right now. But really providing those opportunities for people who are non-native English speaking to take part is going to be essential. We are also doing the same thing with our materials and doing the best we can to get those materials out. Everything from, as I said, census materials to our voter guides, which people know, love, and trust closer to the election. We are also considering doing an online voter registration postcard campaign while people are sheltering at home. So in English and Spanish, we can provide handwritten notes to people who we know have been either dropped from the rolls or who are inactive ahead of the 2020 cycle, so they can receive handwritten postcards from their neighbors in their community, asking them to try to participate in online voter registration, while they are sheltering at home. And these will be followed up with or preceded by a phone call or a text, because we know many touches and the way people are sheltering at home are better touches in this particular environment. So if y'all would like to participate in our postcard parties for OVR, I heard you're talking about other postcard parties. People do not know online voter registration exists, and they need to, especially in this moment where it is available by computer and phone. So hopefully that will be a good starter Spanish-speaking kit that we can use for everything from defending our democracy through the census to getting people ready to vote this fall.
Nancy Jacobs says she has a team ready in Chatham County. Do you need volunteers for your postcards?
Yeah, we don't have the postcards yet. In fact, I just got approval on this yesterday, and we're working on funding for them now. Obviously, with 570 some thousand people removed from the rolls, it will be important to create a universe where we can actually find those people, where those postcards can be received, and that these people have not moved out of the state, but they are really here and they really don't know they're active. So over the next few weeks, we'll be working on creating those postcards, getting them addressed, producing messages that will compel people to take action. And at that point, this is probably a June campaign while people are home for the summer, not at the beach, filling out their postcards and having postcard parties. We are also hosting OVR parties generally, where we're actually having DJs, music come, and our local organizers working with their communities to everybody sit on the couch and online register to vote, knowing even if you're registered to vote, or if you're not sure, it's not going to hurt you to use this service to update your address or get registered for the first time. So we'll have a lot of opportunities coming, and I'd love to circle back with all of you to party with us this summer.
Sailor, we have a few more questions. Mm-hmm. If you'll stay around, I do want you to hear our song, which is called One Term Tom. Are singers ready to put the words up? This is just a little interlude, and it's an opportunity to breathe and sing together again.
Okay, so Karen, you want One Term Tom instead of Vote 'em Out?
We're doing vote them out at the end, I think. Oh,
whatever you want.
okay. Do vote 'em, whatever you plan to do. Just put up the words we're going to
No,
say.
I think one term. Oh no, you're right. It's one term Tom.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And there he is. One term, not one term Mike. Okay, Mike. Let's see. He's tuning. Michael, can you hear me? All right. Oh, good. All right. Okay, let me get these lyrics up.
Hello.
Sorry, everybody. I had a little moment. All right. Here we go. Nope.
So,
sorry. Hang on.
Yeah. So we're going to modify it today, and
No. I'll get one term Tom right back. It's my fault.
right. We'll do one term, Tom, but we're going to do it without the bridge, I believe. Right? Just the verse and chorus.
That's right.
Shorten it.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Hang on 1 second and let me
Sure.
do what. Oh boy, this just okay. Stop share. Okay, share screen. Okay, now share screen. All right.
Okay, I can sit down.
One term.
This is the part where we're building the plane while we're flying it. Okay.
Hang on. Now I got it. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I got it now. I've okay, hang on. Oh gee whiz. Just hang on 1 second here and okay. Okay, it's gonna be beautiful now. All right. Okay, yes. There it is. Right, can you see it?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Hey, one term, Tom. Hey, one term, Tom. It's all right. The smiles returning to our faces. 2020, it feels like years since it's been clear. Just one term time, do, like one term done. We say it's all right. One term time, he's one term time. We say it's all right.
Okay, we're going to stop now because we can't see the words. We can't see the words. We're going to keep working on this, you guys. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Randa.
But I had some in front of me. So.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll keep working on this.
I'll keep my day job.
It's fine. It's fine. We have a couple more questions for Sailor. Are you still with us, Sailor?
I am.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. Sailor, I was a volunteer during the primaries with the voter protection. I've got my yellow t-shirt on. One of the questions that I was asked was, how is Democracy NC funded? And I just said we're nonpartisan and we were funded by nonpartisan beneficiaries. So how are you funded?
We are funded by a combination of private donations, foundations, and grants. But we are a C3 organization, so we're not affiliated with any political party or any candidate or anything like that. So we truly, the sad reality is that voting rights has become a partisan prospect in America. And so while we have held lawmakers to account from both sides of the political aisle for the last 30 years, because we advocate for voting access, it is unfortunate that we are deemed left-leaning when the reality is things like same-day registration helped elect Donald Trump in 2016. You know, it's all about who's the most enthusiastic and who turns out, who takes the benefit of the things that we have fought for and won in this state. And so it is really important to understand that we are a nonpartisan nonprofit, but to the extent that voting rights should be for everyone, we acknowledge that it has not been, and we fight specifically for a lot of the marginalized communities that are considered to be progressive communities. But we will continue fighting, and we will continue trying to win. And in this environment, if your political strategy is to lower turnout, COVID-19 is a gift to you. And in this environment, if voter access is your political mission, then it is a challenging time. And so if you're considering donating to any organizations moving forward, we could sure use your help this year, earlier, not later, just like your counties could, because right now is the fight. It won't be in September, October, when people are thinking about elections. It is right now in terms of securing access to those vital options that you're going to want in October and November.
Karen, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much. And please come back to us to help you organize and mobilize these things. I really appreciate you being with us. And
thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Well, have a great day.
You too. You too. You're welcome to stay with us. So last week we talked about the meat packing places in North Carolina, and Doyle went and wrote this amazing piece using all of his, well, not all, but his medical expertise around this. And Lori and Elena and others helped with that. Marcy helped. I think Jewel helped. And so I just want an update on that, and maybe I'll turn it over to Elena. Would you be the one to do that, or Marcy? Unmute yourselves, guys, and take a bow, because this was great.
Doyle wrote a great letter, and I'll put that up on the website either tonight or tomorrow morning. We kind of edited it as a group, and Jewel sent it to the person she knows, who turned out, not, I guess Jewel can speak to this, but who turned out not to know Mandy Cohen in person. So, but they gave us some great tips on how to get things in front of her, how to get things in front of Governor Cooper. So that's what I'm doing now. Is I've printed out all the letters. I'm in the process of stuffing envelopes and mailing them to Governor Cooper, Mandy Cohen, the North Carolina General Assembly, and I'll do it by both letter and email. So that should all happen today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Group effort. It was, a good effort.
It really was. It was very inspiring. It started with an article that I think Susan brought to our attention. It dovetails with work that Elena and many others have been doing with the immigrant communities in North Carolina. And Elena, take it away.
So I have been involved with a few group of Hispanic folk, and I was charged with taking all 206 plants and finding food pantries around each one of them. And as a result, I just got done with that. Once I got the right list to work with, it was not as, anyway, I did an analysis that I will try to share, Random, with you. It is by county, and it illustrates the county, the number of plants, the number of people that have been tested, lab tested, and this data is coming from the Health and Human Services as of yesterday morning, and how many deaths. And you will see, hopefully I'll be able to do this. Hopefully. Maybe not. Here it is, maybe. No. No, it's not letting me do it. So, oh, there it is. Can you see it?
Yes.
So
Can you zoom in a bit on that so we can see a little bit clearer?
it's massive. I mean, it's the reason it's just so dang big. So let's see. I will try to do this. How's that?
That's great.
Okay. So with first column is the county. The second column is the number of plants. The next column is how many lab tests results. But remember, lab test results, meaning they had to be symptomatic. And then the number of deaths. And then, of course, Tony being very involved with the national average of deaths, he then added a third column to that data. So you'll see Alamance County has 8 plants. 128 people were tested. But we go down, and I hope I'm not making anybody sick. You see Cabarrus County has 5 plants. Well, now we've got 314. Chatham County. And also remember that just because the plant is physically located in Chatham County, that doesn't mean people don't live in Orange County. Because I'll tell you, the Orange County number was crazy high too. Currituck, look at Currituck. There's 1 plant, there's only 5 cases. As there's a direct correlation. There's a lot of words there just to say there's a direct correlation. But wait till you get to Mecklenburg. Look at Mecklenburg County. 15 plants, 1,700 people that were tested positive with 50 deaths. There is a direct correlation to the number of plants and how many people have been tested because they're symptomatic. Randall.
And the larger point is that Mecklenburg County has the most cases and it has the most meat packing plants.
Yes, ma'am. And Robeson has 10. Now, Robeson, shockingly, only has 204 cases tested. But you know, and I know, the poverty level in Robeson is just astonishing. So I guarantee you that the reason Mecklenburg, even though they have only 5 more plants, is because there's more testing available.
Do you have an average of how many people are in these plants? Do you have that anywhere?
No, there was this has been, I'll be honest with you. I've sat in this chair for 4 days and today was my first shower. Does that give you an idea how much work this was? And that's with Tony doing 70. So yes, we can take this and extrapolate it out. We can do it by income. This is a lot of, the basis of the data is pretty, it's pretty powerful though.
It is.
And go to the bottom.
We need to probably move to the larger point. Oh, you're doing it. Okay, good.
Yeah. So the grand total, there are 209 plants, 9,792 people, and 300. And again, I can't tell you how important it is to say these were the symptomatic cases. And on that note, I will send it over to my buddy who can talk to us, Doyle, about symptomatic, asymptomatic.
Yeah, Doyle, do you want to say something about that?
I think that the news has been coming out rather slowly about this, but I think it's more and more apparent that a whole lot more people are infected and are asymptomatic, and some are going to remain asymptomatic and their immune system cleared the virus from their bodies. But until their immune system has done that, they remain vectors. And I think this is really, if we had Typhoid Mary in the past, I think we have Dyspnea Dawn as the spreaders, perhaps. So I think that we have to really keep pressing for wider testing, and we really don't have any hope until the vaccine arrives and is distributed and is taken to really cope with this, because we do not know who's infected. We do not know who's spreading. So we might be, masks help keep us from spreading to others, and to some degree they help us cope with other people. But I think what it does, it really reminds us that the social isolation is something we got to stick with and just find a way to get happy with it. And secondly, when you're out and around people at all, put a mask on. Just don't do any chances. Keep the 6 foot distance as much as you possibly can, and try to limit the number of times that you go away from home.
Thank you.
Karen, muted.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for this work that you did, Elena, and Doyle, for always keeping us on track about infection. And I really love this. Every Friday, a group of us have been meeting around issues around migrants and immigrants. And every Monday, issues around food. Everyone's welcome to join us. You just send an email for the Zoom. And I just want to point out that many of us are able to stay home and planning to do that because we can read and see what's going on. The people that are not able to stay home, of course, are overwhelmingly poor, people of color. And, I couldn't figure out in Georgia, why are nail parlors essential and all of these things that were essential in Georgia and meat packing plants. Well, all of those places employ mostly poor people of color. And so it becomes more important than ever what exactly we're doing here of trying to expose the systemic poverty and systemic racism. Cliff sent me an article that I put in the tiny letter that is about the president's handling of this crisis, but it talks about what will happen if the president is not reelected, but really all those things are happening now. If he were trying to kill as many people as possible, he could not be doing a better job than now, what he's doing. The Fed seizing the testing supplies and the medical supplies, and nobody knows where they're going. So recently, when I've been calling Senator Tillis's office, they have been answering the phone, and I have been really pressing them on what is happening to these supplies that Jared Kushner is basically seizing through FEMA and other federal agencies. Senators Blumenthal and Senator Elizabeth Warren have written a letter demanding to know what is happening to those supplies. And I think we need to be pressing Tillis on what is happening to those supplies and pressing Tillis on the fact that we have 5% of the world's population. We probably have more than 30% of the deaths if you account for everyone's deaths. And meanwhile, he's talking about what a good job he's doing. We need to keep putting it in Tillis's face. 5% of the world's population, probably 30% of the deaths. Documented 25% of the deaths, but we all know that the death spike in this country has gone way up and there's very little testing. My sense is the president is trying to keep it that way, as little testing as possible to keep the numbers down. He said that. Mm-hmm. So, I'm saying this as someone who lived through the AIDS epidemic when gay men were dying by the thousands. And it seemed, we just saw in front of our eyes, okay, gay men, they can die. That's fine with us. And I think that's what's happening now with poor people and people of color. They're considered expendable people. And our work becomes more important than ever to press the General Assembly, to press the senators and our representatives when we have representatives that aren't in line with this. So I'm sorry, that's a little passionate screed that I appreciate you listening to, and you're welcome to unmute yourself. There's some more time, a little more time.
Can I raise my hand, Ellen?
Yes.
By doing as little testing as possible, it's going to make the count go way up.
No, little test. Well, it's going to make the deaths go way up.
The deaths are going to go up.
Deaths will go way up for sure.
I'm
saying that he doesn't care about how many deaths there are.
No,
and
he doesn't.
We know from this most recent Washington Post article, he's hiding the deaths. So, yeah, good point, Ellen. Yeah.
I don't know how many of you read Heather Cox Richardson's daily posts on Facebook, but her posts are amazing. She's a historian, and she's been writing literally every day for 6 months now. And she wrote an amazing post this morning, or last night, that was about how she's starting to sort of see the mirroring between what is happening now and what happened in the 30s with basically the denial of the Depression, and who needed that, who needed what funding where, and how important FDR was in terms of changing the ways that the government was functioning when he got elected into office. And I'm concerned at this point that Joe Biden is nowhere close to being an FDR and won't really be so much of a help to us.
Gary, thank you for mentioning that. I'm going to put in the chat a link to that letter. Those Ann Cox Richardson letters are fantastic, and I agree with you. We should, if we want to, I'll be reading it. So I will put the link in, and it'll be sent out, the chat.
Can I respond to Andy for a second, Karen? It's Michael Eisenberg.
Yes.
Andy, FDR said to the people, I will do things when you push me. And he was pushed. So if we push Joe Biden and keep pushing Joe Biden, and hopefully whoever he has as a vice president can push him as well, but I believe that we can move him in that direction.
I'm with you, Mike. I'm with you on that. We got to keep pushing. We just have a few more minutes. What else?
Hey, this is
Tara, go ahead.
This is Tara. I'm sorry, I just was on a bunch of calls this morning, and all I wanted to do was just remind you all, and I'll put a link in the chat box. Tomorrow the Supreme Court is going to be hearing 2 cases around birth control. The Trump administration is still trying to make it so that you can basically not cover birth control for your employees and not just if you are designated as a religious organization, but also one with a moral. They're trying to expand the rule that it's a moral exception, which honestly, I mean, Hobby Lobby is what started this, right? And Hobby Lobby is not a religious organization, but they were given leeway to do this kind of discrimination against employees who want to use birth control. And so they're bringing that back up. It's Little Sisters of the Poor, and then there's another Trump v. Pennsylvania. They're both Pennsylvania cases. So I'll share a link on an article explaining that, but that's just out there as well, and we need to be watching that. And then, certainly there are ways that we can push Tillis to be like, look, birth control is something that is most people use at some point in their time, and then it's just something that needs to be fixed if the Supreme Court comes out with a bad decision, which we think they will.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Ellen is holding up, please check out Ellen. She's holding up a sign. She's been working with another group that has been tweeting and putting, So we demand to vote by mail. So please do that. Take a picture of yourself and do that. Thank you so much,
Can we see the
Ellen.
sign?
It says, we demand to vote by mail. And it has a picture of her holding up the sign.
I just want to say we better work to have a working post office system if we're going to be voting by mail.
Yes. And that's also a great thing to be talking to the senators about.
And I put in the chat the link for the PDF to fill out to file for absentee balloting. So you can go directly there, print it out, fill it out, and it has you send it to your local polling district office, and it has all the addresses on it. So you can just print it out and fill it out.
Okay.
Karen, can you hear me? It's Sandy.
Yeah, quick.
I just want to say we also need to watch Social Security because the Trump administration is strongly trying to stop the payroll deduction contribution to Social Security. We want an FDR. We need to keep Social Security.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, and this is Galia. So I did a press release. Today is National Day of Action for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. And as you may know, there's problems in North Carolina. There's really big problems in Lumberton. I wrote about some stuff, and then there's a new article that came out today about like a deputy that was arrested, and for some reason they let him go, and we don't know what's going on. But there is an action you can do. You can like wear red and post yourself, and I put it in the chat window so you can read it.
And I think most of us got that email too, Galia.
Well, some people, yeah.
Thank you. So today is the National Day of Action around murdered and missing Indigenous women, and it's Cinco de Mayo when Mexico defeated Napoleon. So let's defeat Napoleon.
Karen, this is a question for Galia. That was a very powerful article you forwarded out to some of us. And I want to know, are there any champions for taking action in looking into these cases? Who do we need to be pressing, or do we have to go federal?
I would say like the Lumberton Police Department has a Facebook page, and they have this post with the federal, there's a wanted poster, like, can you help with these women? Right on that, I am thinking about like calling them and bugging them to do their frickin' jobs. They haven't classified these cases even as homicides yet, for crying out loud.
Okay,
So,
yeah, we need to find out what action to take. It's very upsetting to hear about this, and we need to take an action of some kind. The Lumberton Police might be a place to start, yes? And then, yeah. Okay, I'm feeling anxious because we're so over time. And I also am feeling anxious because I don't know if putting the words up will work. So I want to try something. I would like us to mute ourselves and have, okay. Is it voting? Okay. Don't do anything. Can everyone see this? Randa, stop pushing buttons. That didn't work when you just did that. It worked at first, and then you got rid of it. Can you hear me? Okay.
Can hear you, and here it comes now without any of the issues.
Okay. Stop. Okay.
Okay, here we go. So this is a cappella. Just passing that on to Mike. And then it's me and Mike singing this, and everybody's going to join us. Okay? Okay. If you don't like who's in there, vote them out. That's what election day is all about. The superpower we've got is called the ballot box. And if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. Oh, vote them out. Vote them out. And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. Yeah, we'll bring some great ones in. They'll find us hope again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. Now, mail-in ballots sure would help things out. As Trump will put election day in doubt. Yes, he will. Let's end deceit and fraud. Restore the rule of law. Just need an honest chance to vote them out. Yeah, vote them out.
Vote them out.
Vote them out. Yeah, and when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. Yeah, we'll bring some great ones in. They'll find us hope again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. Now 2020 never mattered quite like this. The Senate is a swamp that serves the rich. Yes, it does. Let's end the graft and lies. Get that White House sanitized. That nasty virus must be voted out. Yeah, vote them out. Vote them out. And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. Ooh, we'll bring some great ones in. They'll find us hope again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. Now listen, if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. Yeah. Woo.
Nice.
Oh, I guess I'm on.
Yay.
Listen to that.
Take it out.
Yeah.
Listen to that. Our care team sent around this wonderful poet's invitation that the pandemic can be a portal between worlds.
Yes.
And that's right where we are. We have to listen. Listen to everything that was just said in the past hour or more. Everything we heard testifies to the dream and the belief in a new world. So in this midday pause, just let everything we just heard settle into your cells and your spirits. Keep listening to the possibility of that new world. Friends, it's cloudy outside, but shine on. Shine on. New world is coming.
Thank you so much. I unmuted everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We have our
Karen.
marching orders.
All right. Simple bow.
Let me see.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye
Scarlett.
bye. Bye, Lib.
Goodbye. Nice to see you.
It's really good to